Breaking inside the White House war room, the pressure was at a boiling point. Lindsey Graham, sweating bullets, shouting into the chaos, drop it now. He wanted bunker busters. He wanted fire raining from the skies. He wanted war, and he wanted it now. But President Donald J. Trump, he sat there silent, not a word, not a nod, just stone cold silence as the room froze. And then just days before or just days later, everything changed. So what President Trump did next shocked even his closest allies, flipped Graham's war plan on its head, and of course, triggered a chain reaction that the deep state, the media, and even Iran never saw coming, guys, because this wasn't just a disagreement over strategy. This was a showdown between two worldviews, one pushing for more American blood in the sand, and the other one playing 4D chess while the bombs fell without ever pulling the trigger himself. So in today's video, I want to go ahead and expose this war plan that Lindsey Graham begged Trump to execute, why President Trump went radio silent instead, and the stunning move that changed the entire battlefield without costing a single American life. Now, trust me, guys, by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why President Trump's silence may go down as one of the boldest strategic decisions of his presidency. If you appreciate the daily news updates, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Now, stick with me, because once you hear what happens next, you're never going to look at Lindsey Graham or Trump's war cabinet the same way again. All right, so behind closed doors, inside the West Wing, the tension was suffocating. Missiles had just torn through Sokoria Medical Center in southern Israel. Iranian-backed militias were threatening retaliation, and the air was thick with rumors of nuclear enrichment activity ramping up inside Iran's deepest bunkers. And at that very moment, one man couldn't keep quiet. Lindsey Graham. He wasn't asking for a measured response. He wasn't requesting diplomacy. He was screaming, "Drop it now," urging Trump to launch immediate airstrikes and calling for a full-scale military operation. And this war wasn't just about stopping a nuclear program. No, Lindsey Graham wanted something far bigger. He wanted regime change. He wanted to take out the Ayatollah, to topple Iran's government, to rebuild yet another Middle Eastern country with American blood and American dollars. And how did he justify it? With one of the oldest, most overused comparisons in the war hawk playbook, Hitler. We probably shouldn't have taken him out in the 1930s, is what Graham said. He said, "I wish we had, because we know what happened when we didn't." Now, that's not just foreign policy. That's manipulation. That's fear tactics. This is how you bait a nation into war. And let's be honest, this isn't a surprise from Lindsey Graham, is it? So this is the same Lindsey Graham who's been calling for U.S. intervention in almost every global conflict in the last 2 decades. Iraq, he wanted boots on the ground before the weapons of mass destruction were even found. Libya, he cheered on regime change and then ghosted when the country collapsed into chaos. Afghanistan supported surges, withdrawals, and even re-entries, whatever the moment called for. Ukraine, he called for escalation, then begged for no-fly zones, then floated the idea of sending U.S. troops to Europe. So it's not leadership, it's obsession. He's never held accountable, really, because, war is profitable to people like Lindsey Graham. His campaign coffers are lined by defense contractors and globalist donors. He sits on advisory councils for neocon think tanks that still think it's 2004. And every single time that he screams for bombs, young Americans are the ones who end up paying the price. Is that fair, guys? And so now he thought President Trump would just cave. He thought Trump, President America first, would crack under pressure and let him have his war. But he underestimated the man that was across the table from him. Now, if you're trying to manage your Medicare plan by yourself, you're basically trying to do your taxes without a calculator. And the consequences are rather expensive. But Chapter makes it simple. Jamie from Texas just saved $600 with Chapter's help. Ed, who's 84 years old, said, "Thanks to Ron and Chapter, I'm saving $684 a year. That is a huge savings for someone like me on a fixed income." Hey, look, they compare every plan available. They find what fits your needs, and they help you to avoid costly mistakes. Give our friends a Chapter call right now. Phone number is 909-563-8279, or better yet, hit them up on their website at askchapter.org/Ron. Smart people are here to help, and they're at Chapter. So give our friends a Chapter call and let me know how much you were able to save. All right, so you got the world watching now, right? The press mob is waiting, and every political strategist is ready to spin a narrative. President Donald J. Trump, he said nothing, right? Not a press conference, not a post, not even a soundbite, guys. He said, in fact, he just walked right past the reporters. Cameras were clicking, microphones were being shoved forward. Mr. President, will you authorize a strike? Mr. President, is Iran getting the bomb? Are we going to war? These are all the questions that these reporters are asking Trump. Trump just stared ahead, cold, controlled, calculated. But inside the Situation Room, he was doing anything but nothing. He just didn't tell them that. Trump sat down with top military brass and intelligence officials. He reviewed satellite images. He reviewed intel intercepts and damage assessments, and he asked the hard questions. Could bunker buster bombs penetrate Fordow and Natanz? Would our B-2s fly undetected through Iranian radar grids? What would be the fallout literally and politically? And then, of course, he said something that nobody expected. I like to make my final decision 1 second before it's due. Wow. That just stopped the room cold. Not because it was vague, but because it was deliberate. Trump wasn't being indecisive. He was refusing to be manipulated. You see what I'm saying here, guys? Lindsey Graham was playing these emotional poker games with nuclear stakes. Trump, he's playing chess, strategic silence, maximum leverage, because the truth is this, guys. President Trump has no interest in starting another forever war. He campaigned on it in 2016. He delivered it during his first term. And now here we are in 2025. He's back in office and he's making it crystal clear. No new wars, no wasted blood, no surrender of America's policies or priorities. And yes, even while President Trump was silent, the rest of the world did not stop moving. So, what happens next? Well, I can tell you what, it was so shocking, so precise, so devastating that even President Trump's critics were left speechless. What Lindsey Graham was shouting about, drop it now, behind closed doors, while Trump sat silent with a poker face that had half the room in the Washington Situation Room just guessing. The American people were already speaking, and it was loud and clear. The polling data from just this week, June 13th to June 16th, 2025, dropped like a bombshell on Capitol Hill. 78% of Americans now say that they're deeply concerned about Iran acquiring a nuclear weapon. Drop the word nuclear if you're concerned as well. But despite that concern, over 60% said that they do not support direct U.S. military involvement in the Iran-Israel conflict. And just 16% support sending in troops. Now, this is not just a margin. This is a mandate. America is done with forever wars. We're not interested in sending our sons and our daughters into another sandbox meat grinder for vague geopolitical chess moves, right? I mean, we've been here before, and we're not trying to do this again. So think about it, right? The same people that Lindsey Graham wants to send into Tehran are the same people working two jobs, drowning in inflation and watching their cities fall apart under unchecked illegal immigration. I mean, we've got $36 trillion in national debt. 50 million illegal aliens have flooded across the border. Our veterans are sleeping on the streets. Our schools are broken. Crime's exploding. And Lindsey Graham's over here thinking we should spend billions of dollars bombing bunkers in Iran. Let me ask you something. Who's going to rebuild Iran after Lindsey topples the regime? You think defense contractors are going to just pay for it? Do you think Lindsey Graham's donors are going to go ahead and, cover the Marshall Plan 2.0? No, you will. The American taxpayer will. And like we paid to rebuild Iraq, just like we paid to fund the Taliban's replacements, just like we bled for Libya and then left it in shambles. And Graham, he doesn't care because he won't be the one that's going to be carrying the rifle. Just put the rifle in somebody else's hand. Who cares? It's not his life. It's not his kid's life. You see what I'm saying? He won't be the one that's coming home in a flag draped coffin, nor will his kids. He'll be on, Sunday talk shows talking about values and national security from a soundproof DC safe studio while America's sons are bleeding in the desert. But who was actually paying attention to what the American people actually really wanted? Donald Trump was. And while Lindsey was screaming his bloody head off and the neocons schemed, Trump stayed silent for a reason. Because while America wasn't looking, something else was actually happening halfway across the world. A covert operation, a devastating precision strike. And it was a message to Iran that was so clear that even their proxies went silent. So as the DC swamp fixated on Trump's silence and pundits begged for a statement, something way more decisive was already in motion. Not in Washington, not in NATO, but in Tel Aviv. On June 17th, just 2 days ago, depends on when I decide to release this, Israel launched Operation Rising Lion. Okay, now what followed after this, right? Well, I'll tell you what. What followed after this was probably one of the most precise, covert, and devastating counterstrikes in modern history. Israel released the jets. Israeli jets, some assisted by U.S. stealth intelligence, penetrated Iranian airspace undetected, mind you. They struck deep into hardened nuclear infrastructure at Fordow and Natanz. These were the exact sites that Lindsey Graham was yelling about. These were the exact targets Trump had asked his generals about. This is it. But President Trump never gave them the green light. Israel didn't wait. They handled it themselves. And the world watched in stunned silence. Now, according to defense analysts, Israel didn't just destroy critical underground facilities. They hijacked into Iran's state-run television, broadcasting images to unveil women cutting their hair, while the symbol of a roaring lion flashed in the corner of the screen. This wasn't just symbolism, guys. This was psychological warfare. This was Operation Rising Lion. Mossad agents had infiltrated the regime's digital systems. Intelligence operatives had planted surveillance inside Iran's own military network, and Iran never even saw it coming. And here's where it gets really interesting. Even after the strike, everyone braced for the retaliation. Surely Hezbollah would light up the north. Surely Hamas would roar back from Gaza. Surely the Houthis would fire missiles from Yemen, right? Wrong. Nothing. Silence. Like dominoes falling in reverse. Iran's entire proxy network just went quiet. Hezbollah, mute. Hamas, paralyzed. Houthis, disconnected. Militias in Iraq and Syria, radio silence. Why? Because Israel, they had them wired. And Iran alone, exposed and fragile. And all of this, every single move played out without President Trump even lifting a finger. He didn't have to fire a missile. He didn't have to put a single American boot on the ground. He didn't even have to make a speech. While Lindsey Graham was having a full meltdown in the Roosevelt room, President Trump was letting Israel do what it does best. Strike fast, strike smart, and strike alone. And when President Trump finally broke the silence, it wasn't with bombs. It was with something even stronger. The war hawks, they're still pacing. The media, they're foaming at the mouth. The Democrats and even some shaky Republicans, they're all demanding answers. Why hasn't Trump said anything? Where is the president? Why is he letting Israel go rogue? And then it came. Not from the press room, not from the Pentagon, but from Trump's official Truth Social account at 5:42 a.m. Eastern time this morning. He said 7 words. That's all it took to shut it all down. Sometimes silence is strength. But then, of course, just underneath it, a follow-up. Israel has every right to defend itself. We will always protect American lives. Iran must choose surrender or consequences. That post, it hit like a bunker buster of its own because it revealed everything that was going on behind the scenes. I mean, think about what just happened, right? Trump let Israel strike without getting America tangled in a new ground war. He kept American hands clean, no troops deployed, no lives lost. He held leverage by staying quiet and letting events unfold. He sent a crystal clear message to Iran. You are surrounded, isolated, and outplayed. The next move is yours. Choose wisely. And when Lindsey Graham was ready to burn the entire Middle East down, Trump showed that true strength isn't loud. It's disciplined. It's strategic. It's unpredictable. Trump proved that you don't need to start a war to end a threat. But not everybody came out of this whole thing clean. In fact, one man just saw his credibility go up in smoke. So while Trump was praised for his restraint, his discipline, and his surgical response, Lindsey Graham, he was getting torched. Not by Democrats, not by journalists, by his own party. So on Capitol Hill, behind the scenes, MAGA aligned senators, they were fuming. They kept quiet when Lindsey Graham backed regime change in Syria. They bit their tongues when he talked about expanding NATO's role in Ukraine. But now he wanted American troops in Iran. That was the final straw. Senator Shea of Montana, a Republican, a veteran and a voice of reason in the new GOP, stepped up with a bold statement that echoed across every conservative platform in the country. Regime change can only come from one place. That's from the people of Iran. We learned that the hard way in Iraq. We learned it again in Afghanistan. I was part of both wars. I know the cost. You want to stop a murderous regime? You don't do it by handing power to Washington bureaucrats and bombing countries into rubble. That wasn't just a rebuke of Lindsey Graham. That was a warning to every politician that's still clinging to the Bush era playbook. So in the MAGA movement, Graham's outburst is being called a rhino relapse. He's being accused of betraying Trump, of trying to hijack the moment for personal glory, of ignoring the people, of ignoring the will of the people. So social media exploded with backlash. Graham wants war. Trump wants peace through strength. How many more Americans does he want to bury? This guy never met a conflict he didn't want to escalate. And here's the reality. Lindsey Graham screamed. Trump stayed silent. And when the smoke cleared, Graham was exposed. So there you have it, guys. I mean, while Lindsey Graham was yelling, drop it now, like a relic from the neocon war room, Trump was playing the long game. He waited, he watched, and then boom, Israel did the job for him. The message was sent. The bomb was dropped, and just not by, it's just not by who Lindsey Graham expected. And the best part about this is that not a single American soldier even had to die for this. Now, if you respect Trump's restraint and reject the warmonger games of the DC elite, I want you to hit the like button, share this video, and drop a comment with your thoughts. Should Lindsey Graham be removed from the Senate? Should America finally cut ties with the regime change crowd? Let your voice be heard, guys, because we need to stand up and we need to stand tall. Let your voice be heard before they drag us into another disaster. Now, I'm going to be watching the comments. Let's talk about it. Let's let this be a reminder that this is your country and this is your fight. I'll see you guys on the next one.